You were Prema Manjari, Tribal Prema Manjari. About 35 years ago, I was in Jaisalmer. I had a group of brahmacharis, and we had been traveling through Rajasthan, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and distributing prasadam. Our program is that we would, in the morning we would sell books, and then in the afternoon I would cook a pot of sweet rice and put it in the back of the van, and we'd go through the streets of Jaisalmer and do Harinam, and then when people would come back to the van, we'd give them leaf cups of kheer, prasad. And one of the mornings I was there, we were walking down from the fort, which is up on the top of the hill in Jaisalmer, and one Rajasthani fellow came running out of his cafe. His cafe was called the Laughing Camel. And he came up and he said, "You're the first devotees I've ever seen here in Jaisalmer." And I said, "Oh, wonderful." And he introduced himself, and then he requested that we would come home and take prasadam. I said, "Certainly." And he said, "My wife is a devotee." I said, "Really?" I said, "What is her name?" I said, "She's initiated by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. And I think she was from Fiji." And I said, "What is her name?" And said, "Her name is Prema Manjari." And when he mentioned that name, it was such a beautiful name, I think immediately I had goosebumps on my skin. It was so random in the middle of the Rajasthani desert to hear Prema Manjari being spoken. So Radhe Shyam and Prema Manjari, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
For opening your home this evening and opening your hearts and your hospitality.
No, Maharaj, we are blessed to have you.
Oh, I'm blessed to be here. And also, it is a pleasure to be with you all. I just came from America. I arrived, I think, yesterday morning, and we had a nice kirtan function somewhere in New Jersey. I still don't know the name of the town I went to. But there's a Hare Krishna center there. The Indian congregation, they had purchased a church about 10 years ago, a modern church, not like our church in Toronto. And the youth of that center, they organized a kirtan function. And I only got the invitation for that about 10 days before it happened. It was so random that I received a WhatsApp message from somebody I'd never met before. And they said, "Please come to New Jersey for kirtan." And so I said yes. And it was so wonderful because it was another opportunity to come together with wonderful devotees and wonderful congregational members, just to be able to chant Hare Krishna together. Chant Hare Krishna and hear a few words about Krishna. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he had one of his joking sort of phrases that he would use periodically. He would say, if you take two Bengalis and put them together, they will start a political party. And he would say, if you take two Germans and put them together, they will start a war. He said, you take two French people and put them together, they will make love. He said, but if you put two Vaishnavas together, they will chant Hare Krishna and they will speak about Krishna. So thank you for inviting me here for this purpose this evening. And here I'm in the association of my dear god sister, Mataji, I have holes in my brain and I've forgotten your name from so many years ago. Amrita Keli. Such a sweet name Srila Prabhupada gave her. Amrita Keli. Amrita Keli Mataji and Kratu Maharaj and I, we served together in Toronto, Canada. Goodness, over 50 years ago, we were there. We've changed a lot. We were all young then. Something has gone on. And in Toronto also, we had a church. A very big, beautiful church on Avenue Road. Has anyone here seen the Toronto Temple? Only a few people. If you ever go to Canada, please visit the Hare Krishna Temple at 243 Avenue Road. Big, big, beautiful. It's a protected landmark in Toronto now. It must have been built well over 100 years ago. And Srila Prabhupada came to Toronto first time in 75, and our temple room was about half the size of this hall, and there were about 250 devotees packed in there. So Srila Prabhupada said, you need to get a large temple. So they took Srila Prabhupada to see this church up on Avenue Road, and Srila Prabhupada was very impressed. He said, if you are able to get this temple, it will be a big victory over Maya, or over the illusory energy of Krishna. And so Prabhupada left, and all of the devotees started so enthusiastically doing whatever was necessary to try to get that temple. And you have to take into consideration that back in 1975, we were all just 24, 25-year-old people. Kratu Maharaj and Amrita Keli Mataji, they were a little bit older, and they were professional people, but most of us were not professional. We had just heard the message of Krishna, and we were attracted by that message, and we just moved in to the temple. Back then, ISKCON was like an ashram-based society, whereas now, throughout the world, it's become a very large congregational-based society.
And Vishwakarma tried to get the temple.
Huh?
Vishwakarma tried to get the temple, and our church. So he said they will burn the church, but we won't give it to Hare Krishna.
Exactly. After Srila Prabhupada left, a few of our devotees, they went to the church. And they said, we're prepared to offer you the amount of money that you want for this property. And the elders of the church, they said, oh, no, we do not want to sell now. And so we were frustrated because Srila Prabhupada liked that place. Then later, a short time later, we have one of my Guru Bhai. His name is Shubha Vilas. He is from Hoshiarpur, Punjab. And at that time, he was like a young, up-and-coming business person in Toronto. So Shubha Vilas went there and he said, I would like to buy this church and turn it into an Indian cultural center. And when he said that, they said, of course, we'll sell it to you. And in the course of his discussions with the elders of the church, Subha Vilas, who is an initiated disciple of my spiritual master, he's a Hare Krishna devotee also. But he said, I heard these Hare Krishna people, they wanted to buy your church. And the pastor looked up and he said, yes, but we would rather burn the church down before we sold it to the Hare Krishnas. At any rate, we all went absolutely, 24/7, trying to do whatever we could to get a paisa here, a rupee here, $1 here. whatever it was that we could, close the deal on the church. And by December that year, probably before December, it was probably October, we had come up with sufficient funds, I guess, to make the down payment on the church. So Subhavilas, he went to take the keys, and one of my Western god brothers, he went along also. But so not to disturb the pastor of the church, he dressed in a suit and tie, and because we keep shaved head, he even put a wig on. But he was so exhausted from all of this financial stuff, how to get the money, this, that, and the other, that morning he was very disoriented. And he walked into the church along with Subhavilas, and he still had his tilak on. And he had his japamala hanging around his neck. He was totally, And the pastor looked up and he said, "Oh my God, we sold the church to the Hare Krishnas." But then later he wrote a letter of apology, and he said, "Please forgive me. What I said was not a very Christian-like thing to say." And then it's an interesting thing. This property that we got in Toronto is really a monumental property on one of the main avenues in Toronto. And none of us from our generation can remember the exact date we moved into the temple. Because we had that small temple and we had the murtis there, and we had to transfer everything, and the devotees built beautiful altars inside. None of us to this day can remember the exact day we moved into the temple. But when we did move, it was glorious. And Srila Prabhupada came in the summer of '76, which was probably his last world tour before ill health really took him over. And when he walked into the temple, Srila Prabhupada was just smiling from ear to ear. He was just like, looked like the sun, so bright and brilliant, just radiating happiness. And he was very, very satisfied. He said, "Yes, this is a great victory over illusion. Now with this center, you can teach people about Krishna. Now with this center, you can show people how to do Harinam Sankirtan." And this process of Harinam Sankirtan, or chanting the name of Krishna, this is the recommended process for self-realization in this Kali Yuga that we're living in. In the Srimad Bhagavad Purana, it is said, "Kalir dosa nite rajan hasti eka mahad guna, kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param brajat." There it says, Kali Yuga is the big, big ocean of all bad things. But there's one good quality in Kali Yuga. And the good quality is if we will chant the name of Krishna, we will attain the highest goal of life. So I'm so happy to see Amrit Keli. And sadly, Kratu Maharaj, he has ill health, and he was hospitalized today. So I think tonight I'm going to request everyone, just for a moment before we begin Kirtan, everybody just go inside of your heart. Let's all be silent for a moment and go inside of your heart and speak to Krishna in your heart and say, "Please, my dear lotus-eyed Krishna, who are so compassionate, please, you give mercy and help Kratu Prabhu through this difficult test that he's going through." So just for a moment, let's do that and we'll begin.